Hello all, welcome to Grimwit with Dimwits. I'm Blondie.
And I'm T.
Well, aren't you going to say it?
Oh, that's right. How did I forget?
And I'm the lame-o that reminded you.
See, you secretly like it. Welcome to this month's Oxbookterfest.
No, it's not like I like it. It's just the fact that if you don't say it, you're going to whine for the rest of the night. No, I don't want to hear it all.
Nope, you're a closet Oxbookterfest fan. Okay, I know it.
I am not a closet anything.
No, say it.
No, I refuse. I think I tried to say it once and I spit on you, so I stopped saying it.
That's right, don't say it. It was very wet.
You know, it is that time of season, rainy. So did I actually tell you, while I was waiting for you to get here, I took a shower,
Thank God.
Yeah, just for you.
That was scary even before I got here.
And this is an effect that doing these podcasts is obviously having on me. I'm in the shower. I have a couple dogs. They're running around barking. They're jumping on I don't know what. And they bark at other dogs, but they were going literally insane. They were running into the bedroom. I'm thinking, okay, somebody's in the house. And all I could think of is I'm going to be in a towel and I'm going to be wet.
Okay, psycho. Straight out of a movie.
Right. It's not like the doors aren't locked. Get out of the shower, kind of get myself in the towel. I'm going through the house, dripping wet, looking to see what the dogs are barking at. I look out the window and there's a dog at the park.
But of course, they could have even just been barking at each other. Have you met your dogs?
I know, but the way that my brain went immediately.
There's a killer in the house.
There's a killer in the house.
Oh my gosh.
So this was my experience waiting for you today.
Oh.
And you're welcome for the shower.
Yes, that's the least you can do.
Yeah, I cleaned today. I was a little Fuchi.
Fuchi. Fuchi is a lot. Okay, that's next level.
Well, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it all the way.
Right.
So what do we have in this episode?
So.
Apparently it's breathtaking.
Let's start this off with a very familiar song to the fans of this movie.
She owes me $3, by the way.
Yes, it's $1.50 each time, and we had to practice once, and so now we're going to do it, and it's going to cost me $3. You better give me my $3 worth.
So what?
You're going to take the lead on this.
Here's my Venmo. Are we ready?
All right, ready.
Okay. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, grab a crucifix. 7, 8, gotta stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep again. I think you owe me an extra $1 because I was bopping my head.
I'm not going to owe you anything because that was a Grammy-winning performance. You're welcome.
We are going to lose listeners.
We really are. Sorry about that, guys. Just fast forward. I say after the song. I should have said it before. Obviously, for all you Freddy fans out there, that's the haunting little jump rope song from the film A Nightmare on Elm Street. The words were very cleverly changed from the original nursery rhyme of 1, 2, buckle my shoe. But this creepy 80s version is much more memorable than the original if you're a fan of this horror classic. But did you know that the concept behind this movie was based on real events? Let's do a quick overview of this film for anyone who isn't familiar with it before we deep dive this bad boy.
I actually watched that the other day.
I know, I made you.
Come on, give me a little credit.
What do I owe you for that one? Just add it to my tab.
I'm not going to wait for you to pay me. I'm actually going to request through Venmo my money.
That's better. That's actually much better. In 1984, Freddy Kreuger entered our dreams on the big screen and changed our dream world forever. The late, great Wes Craven introduced a severely burned, knife-glove-wearing maniac who starts stalking a group of teenage friends in their dreams. 15-year-old Nancy eventually figures out what's going on and tries to get help, but no one believes her. But things get more serious when her friends start being horrifically murdered in their sleep. Nancy learns that the dream killer in the horrible red and green striped sweater is Freddy Kreuger, a child killer from the past who preyed on the children of Springwood. The parents of those children had taken the law into their own hands and burned Freddy alive in a boiler room. So Freddy is now a sleep demon out for revenge by killing the children of his murderers. There it is in a nutshell.
Then how come the movie took an hour and a half?
I know. I could have just said the whole thing and left it to everybody's imagination.
Ooh.
So, have you ever had the kind of nightmare that feels so real you wake up in the middle of the night, a little or possibly a lot, unnerved at the scene that just played out in your own mind? How do some of those thoughts even get in there? Especially those scary, twisted ones where you wake up anxious but then realize, thankfully, it was just a dream. Phew! You calm down a bit, but it still takes a few moments to pull yourself together enough to maybe go back to sleep. I've had a few of those scary dreams. And there's also the nightmares where I'm too unsettled to go back to sleep because when I do, I've had a very unwelcome and sometimes even scarier part 2 of that nightmare. That's happened a few times as well, and I hate it because I'm trying so hard not to think about whatever the unpleasantness was, but I close my eyes and bam, there it is.
Because you're trying not to think about it.
Exactly. The more I try to not focus on it, the more focus it gets. But I'll be damned if I can get a part 2, no matter how hard I try, when I'm having a party dream. Boom, chicka, bow, wow. It never happens, and it's so frustrating. I don't remember a lot of my dreams, good or bad, but I don't think I have a lot of scary ones. Most of the time, I just remember little bits and pieces that usually make 0 sense. But for some reason, once in a while, I have a dream that sticks around after I wake up, and I can remember it in great detail, but only for a very short amount of time. Kind of like that old Mission Impossible show, where after the agents get their dangerous assignment via tape, it ends with, "This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds." Maybe our dreams are like covert agents for all of our minds' secrets.
I've had some scary dreams. The ones where you're just about to die and you wake up. But the ones that actually stick out more to me are the ones where I'm mad at someone or something.
You're right.
Heaven forbid it's my husband, because I hold a grudge, even if it's my dream and he has nothing to do with it.
But of course it's his fault, though, because obviously he did something to make you dream that.
Of course.
Now, have you ever had a recurring nightmare?
I have, actually.
I was not expecting you to say
I have.
I've had one since I was a very little kid. I'm guessing about maybe 4 years old. And it's the exact same nightmare with no deviation whatsoever. It's a pretty short dream, so I'm going to open up the dream door and share. In real life, I used to live in a sage green house and often played with my siblings in front of that house in our little red metal pedal car. We loved to ride around on the sidewalk in that car. It was a really cool toy. Although when I think of it now, it was probably covered in lead paint and toxic layers of who knows what. That definitely should have been the scariest part of this nightmare.
Maybe that's why you're having the recurring nightmare.
Right. I'm poisoned. So in my dream, it's a very calm and clear, beautiful day. And I'm in this red toxic pedal car on the sidewalk right in front of my house that I actually lived in. But I'm outside and all alone. I can see down the sidewalk and there's this man walking in my direction. He's not walking fast, but he's walking with purpose, like he's got somewhere to be. He's definitely not out for a stroll. He's walking with intent toward me. And I'm just sitting in my poison pedal car watching him. I never react or move. He's wearing, and I had to actually look this uniform up, a 1950s solid beige United States Marine Corps military uniform with a matching beige folding cap. He's very clean cut and normal looking, and his clothes are neat and creased. I watch as he gets closer, and then I see him very slowly start to become hairy and morph into a big Sasquatch-looking being. But he's still in full uniform, which is pretty unsettling. Then he starts to run really fast toward me, and right before he reaches me, he gets so close that I can see his deep, dark, animalish eyes. I wake up. I've had this dream repeatedly for decades, and I've gotten to the point where in the beginning of the dream, when I find myself playing in that contaminated car, I know I'm dreaming, and I also know what's about to happen. But once it starts, I can't stop it. I've tried. I've talked to myself during the dream and tried to wake myself up, but I can't. I'm literally a captive audience. The nightmare has to play out in its entirety.
It sounds like somebody had a Teen Wolf crush.
It sounds like the Teen Wolf had a crush on me. But as I got older, I can now watch myself from above and yet also be in the tainted car, experiencing the terror simultaneously. I tell myself in the dream to just wait. Let it play out and it will be over soon. And then it is. The creature hasn't gotten me yet. But what would happen if he did? I don't know, and I don't want to find out if this guy could be my personal Freddy Kreuger. Did you want to share your dream with us?
It's actually just a piece of a dream where I'm flying over the water. I have a fear of heights. The older I get, the more I have a fear of heights.
The more neurotic you are?
Pretty much, yeah. It's like I'm parasailing, but I'm not attached to anything, and I just keep getting higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And then I start to fall, and I wake up before I land.
Okay, fall dreams are scary.
Yeah.
I don't like that feeling.
Yeah, and I'm over the ocean, so I'm thinking, well, but once you hit the ocean so high, it's like cement.
Yeah, it's going to hurt. So, what are dreams? Dreams are a combination of memories, emotions, images, and other subconscious stimuli that human beings and certain animals experience while asleep. In dreams, anything is possible. Rapid eye movement, also known as REM sleep, is when you're most likely to experience dreaming, but it is possible to dream in other sleep stages as well. Dreams are a mix of borrowed, real-life experiences from our subconscious mind, and they sometimes form coherent stories, but they can also be random impressions. These subconscious nighttime memories are necessary to have a solid sleep foundation. Dreaming helps us process memories and better understand our emotions, also providing a way to express our desires and practice facing challenges.
That's interesting that we have to dream to have solid sleep. Although I do get the express our desires part. I've had dreams about celebrities a time or two. Of course, they're always in love with me. They always want me.
Oh, but of course.
And inevitably, I wake up right before the good part.
Why is that always the way? Why can't we follow through?
And you're right. I have had the dreams where it's good, it's great, and you want them to continue. But then you start dreaming about, I don't know, falling.
Falling in love.
No. Falling to your death.
Same thing.
So true.
So does everyone dream? If you transition from a waking state into sleep for long enough, more than likely you'll dream. Ultimately, you will spend 1/3 of your life asleep, and the average person will dream for nearly 6 years before death. Once your sleep cycle progresses beyond non-REM or NREM sleep into the REM stage, you're even more likely to have vivid and intense dreams that linger in your mind and mimic real-life memories. We need that REM.
I guess so.
To follow through. But more often than not, you won't remember any part of your dreams once you wake up. Or you might even think you didn't dream at all each night. But studies have confirmed that people enter dream states each night, even when they don't remember. So let's discuss how this movie was dreamed up. See what I did there?
Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Dad jokes all day. Back in the 80s, Wes Craven, a well-known Hollywood director, came across several Los Angeles Times newspaper articles about SUNS, which stands for sudden, unexpected, nocturnal death syndrome. This is a disorder mainly found in Southeast Asia, which causes sudden cardiac death, usually in males during sleep. Craven stated that he read about a family who had escaped Cambodia and the horrors of war and fled to the U.S. Their youngest son, who was only 12 years old, started having dreams that someone very scary was chasing and trying to kill him. The child said he was afraid and knew that if he went to sleep, the thing chasing him would catch and kill him. So the boy desperately tried to stay awake for days. He even kept a coffee maker in his bedroom and took pep pills to try and stay awake. Craven actually incorporated these real desperate tactics into the movie with his teen character Nancy, doing the exact same things to avoid falling asleep.
First of all, I actually thought, okay, she's got a little bit of an addiction with her pep pills.
Right.
And second, I did find it funny that her mom came in one night, picked up the empty coffee pot with the numerous coffee mugs lying around. And as soon as her mom leaves, underneath the nightstand, she produces this entire new coffee pot with a full pot of coffee brewed.
I thought that was hysterical, too, that she just had it percolating in her nightstand and ready to go for such a moment.
Exactly. And then she knew her mom was going to come take the other stuff.
That is that's a good part of the movie because you're just going, huh?
Where did that come from?
But then one night, after being awake for many days, the 12-year-old boy unfortunately did succumb to sleep. Then his parents heard horrible screams in the middle of the night and ran to help. But by the time they got to their son, he was already dead. His expression looked as though he had died in the middle of a nightmare.
That's awful.
Isn't it? Can't imagine how they felt. Following this, there were many other sons cases popping up in the news regarding young men dying, all refugees from Southeast Asia. Standard autopsies revealed very little about their deaths and their sudden heart stoppage. And such a thing, particularly in Asians, was mystifying, since the rate of ordinary cardiac disease is extraordinarily low, primarily due to their low-fat diet.
They are all very skinny.
Very healthy.
Except for the sumo wrestlers.
Yeah, you can't have a skinny sumo guy.
No, you
That's
can't.
not going to work. The diaper would fall off.
And we wouldn't want that now, would we?
No, that's another show altogether. These young and reportedly healthy men had experienced some form of cardiac arrest in their sleep, but nobody could explain why. It was thought it may have been due to the stress from fleeing their homeland, but that was never proven. During the 1980s, at least 130 refugees left this world essentially this same way. They cried out in terror during sleep, and then they mysteriously died. That's a lot of people.
That's crazy amount of people dying of the same exact thing.
That nobody can figure out. Spurred by curiosity and concern, Robert Kirshner, an associate professor of pathology at the University of Chicago, undertook a systematic study of nightmare death. Quote, in the Philippines, this is referred to as bengungut. In Japan, pakuri. In Thailand, something else. But it all roughly translates as the same thing, nightmare death, end quote, says Dr. Kirshner.
Okay, saying that word, that's a nightmare.
I don't even know if I said it right. It was all a guess.
Well, you done good.
Thank you. The victims had much in common, with the main factor being that nothing seemed to be wrong with any of them before they suddenly died. Quote, these are all healthy men with no previous symptoms. The situation is almost always the same. It only occurs in men, and it only occurs in their sleep. End quote, stated Kirshner. And this really is interesting because if it truly is a heart issue, why wouldn't it also happen when they're awake?
That's an excellent point.
Right?
I mean, do they not see anything as frightening in their awake time?
I would think more things are frightening during their awake time. It is during my awake time. It makes no sense.
No, and that is a good point, and I do have to agree on that one.
Dr. Kirshner personally investigated 5 nightmare deaths himself, including a Laotian father and son who both died in bed, asleep, and only 15 months apart. Quote, "The people in their neighborhood are terrified by this," end quote, Dr. Kirshner says.
Are you sure it's not the lead paint?
Right? Maybe they had a little red metal pedal car. Everybody got a spin. It is the doctor's theory that, yes, perhaps a nightmare overloaded potentially defective hearts, causing these sudden deaths. It was noted that the fibers that carry electronic impulses from the brain to the heart were frayed and curled. That is so creepy. As if, quote, their hearts just shorted out, end quote.
Did they not have a Radio Shack? What the heck?
New batteries? I don't know. Frayed and curled?
That's a little crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little crazy.
That's a little crazy if you ask me. No, when I read those words, I was like, oh, that's over the top. How'd that happen? Kirshner stated, quote, "There is little that can be done to prevent nightmare death. The best you can do is try to teach CPR for those at high risk. But that's about it. People have to sleep," end quote.
Lord knows I need my sleep.
Yeah, but I don't know. So as sad and tragic as all this was, this nightmare death disease piqued Wes Craven's interest. And after doing a little research, he thought adding this real disorder to an element of horror, like some sort of dream boogeyman, could possibly create a new form of terror for people who experience nightmares, which is pretty much everybody, and also for those who had a fear of dying in their sleep. So in a genius move, he put the son's disorder together with the slasher subgenre and created his first script for A Nightmare on Elm Street, a terrifying and exciting new mythology.
Okay, you say genius, I say twisted.
Well, he's tapping into something that everybody can relate to, so I still say genius. Go Wes.
I respectfully disagree. I tap into rainbows and unicorns before I tap into a terrifying killer death dream scenario.
Well, you're not going to make any horror movies with rainbows and unicorns, Missy.
I don't know. I can get pretty demented about my rainbows.
This movie concept escalates the fear of being killed when you are most vulnerable, in your sleep. This newly created terror also turned upside down and steals the feeling of security in your own home and the peace of your own bed, which most people consider their sanctuary. But I know many of us while growing up heard that if you die in your sleep, you also die in real life. But there were never any facts to support this because, hello, everybody would be dead. But then these articles came out regarding these unexplained sleep deaths and the 12-year-old boy describing a dream monster and confirmed that if he slept, he knew he was going to be killed. And then he was. His death only gave more credence to the dream killer theory.
And I thought when growing up that you couldn't die in your dream. That's what I remember, that you couldn't die in your dream. So thank you very much, T. I'm going to sleep like a baby tonight.
I never heard that you couldn't die. I heard that you could.
See, I heard the other way around. Oh, you know, my mother trying to make me dream about rainbows and unicorns.
So Craven built off of all this sleep lore. With this film, he wanted to create a layered anxiety. So the idea behind A Nightmare on Elm Street would impact and prey on the fear of being hunted and murdered in your sleep, because everybody has to sleep at some point. You close your eyes, fall asleep, but suddenly you find yourself in a nightmare that feels all too real, and then somebody or something is after you. You run, but in most dreams, your running gets you nowhere fast. So you try desperately to hide or ready yourself to fight. But no matter what you do, there's no escaping the evil that is determined to take you to your death. So you succumb to the darkness, dying in your dream and also dying in real life.
And why is that true? In your dreams, you always have like lead feet.
I know, right? Well, in the movie, there's a part where Nancy's trying to run up the stairs in her house being chased by Freddy. And the stairs, her feet start to sink in.
Oh, I remember that.
And that was actually done with pancake batter. And that's exactly what it looks like. Like her feet take a step in and just ick. And then she's stuck and she's going slow. That's what happens in my dreams, too. Things that don't make sense.
Explain something else to me. Why are they always in nightgowns? Oh, because they're dreaming. Never mind. They're asleep. Oh. Never mind.
And I was actually thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know. That's a good question.
I just started thinking about that. Why are they always in nightgowns? Oh, they're supposed to be asleep.
Darn that Blondie and her good questions.
You know what? And if I can answer my own questions, we're ahead of the game.
You don't even need me. The film focuses on 4 main characters: Tina, Nancy, Glenn, and Rod. They are all being stalked by Freddy in their dreams. They start being killed off in their nightmares, which also kills them in real life as well. And this movie is where Johnny Depp got his first feature film role. He actually just went to support a friend who was auditioning, but Wes Craven's daughter spotted him and told her dad to cast him because he was dreamy.
And don't think he didn't add that to his resume. And it was funny when I was watching the movie. I saw that he was in it, and I'm like, where is he? Where is he? He just looks so young. It took me a minute to recognize him.
The first time I watched that movie, didn't even realize who it was, and then I watched it again, and then I went, oh, took me a minute too.
And you had to get that full-on face view before you recognized him.
Right. He is very young. Craven used the character Tina to portray a lot of known dream fears. He also uses her friends to become almost parent-like, while trying to help and protect their friend from those fears. These nurturing relationships were meant to symbolize the disconnect of the real-life parent who ignored their children, who ultimately died of sons. So the movie played off some other real-life disconnects as well between the teens and their parents. In real life, while the teens were having these terrifying nightmares and were too scared to sleep, their parents just told them to go to sleep. Sleep is all they needed, and everything would be fine. But 130 deaths later, sleeping is how they ended up dead. Craven symbolized these neglectful parents in the movie by characterizing them as self-centered, like Tina's mom, overbearing, like Glenn's parents, and alcoholic and workaholic, like Nancy's parents. This was kind of a subtle slam to the real-life parents, but I like how he incorporated it.
I get it.
But in the end, after a cruel game of cat and mouse, Tina dies in her sleep. Come to Freddy. I know I said that just like him. I think I want to say that again.
Okay. We'll use
I can't do it again. Forget it. After several attempts, he finally killed her in a very gruesome manner, slashing her across her stomach. Then he viciously attacks her and ends up throwing her from floor to ceiling, leaving behind a blood-soaked scene. The effect here was actually very cool and groundbreaking for the time because they used a rotating room for her being thrown to the ceiling scenes.
Look at Wes being all...
Right? Figuring it out on a small budget.
Mm-hmm.
Police arrive and Tina ends up in a clear body bag. Why it's clear, nobody knows. Probably just to elevate the bloodiness of it all. And as they're taking her body out, I guess nobody bothered to zip up the bag entirely, and her limp, bloody arm falls out while she's being transported on the gurney. I guess this is just a little extra, but it's effective.
You know, it's funny. I thought the same thing. Why did her arm have to pop out? Isn't somebody doing their job to zip her all the way up?
It was weird.
It's just one of those extra gruesome moments, Craven being dramatic.
Right. Craven also played on the stranger danger craze in the 1980s. This message was everywhere at that time, due to a sudden rise in pedophiles and sex offender crimes in what had been previously considered safe neighborhoods. It was so smart for Craven to include this as well because it was so relatable at the time. He threw all the trending fears in there.
I remember in the movie, there was a guy that was hanging out by a tree when Nancy was, I think she was walking home. I thought that was kind of random.
That guy was actually like an undercover, I believe, because her dad had set her up and was watching her to find Rod. Rod had fled, and they suspected that he had killed Tina since he was in the room when she was murdered. So they were looking for him.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I remember she turned around and looked at the guy, and I'm thinking, nothing like being invisible, this 2-foot wide guy hiding behind this 6-inch wide tree.
Craven also based his new villain on a couple of real-life events. There was a local drunk who lived in his neighborhood when he was a child, and that man always creeped him out because he would lurk in the shadows. The old drunk even wore the same hat that Freddy wears in the movies. So this local creep was a great inspiration for Freddy to be cast in shadows and lurking in the darkness. Craven also wanted Freddy to stand out from other villains such as Jason or Michael Myers and not wear a mask. He wanted his villain to be more realistic and interact with his victims, so the mask would have not been effective for speaking. This pays off significantly as Freddy mercilessly taunts the teens throughout the movie and sets himself apart with his creepy, cruel humor. He says ridiculous things, but it comes off scary. And he's actually quite sassy in these movies. Definitely not the usual silent creep up, slash you, and then rudely walk away kind of killer. Freddy was definitely entertaining and enjoying the hunt.
Yes. It's like, I'm having a party.
So, because Freddy wouldn't have a mask, Craven came up with the idea of his skin being burned, and he actually used pepperoni pizza as inspiration for the effect. I think he did a pretty good job. He even considered hiring a real burn victim for the part. But after meeting Robert Englund, Craven knew he had found his Freddy.
Pepperoni pizza as face?
Yep.
So if he got hungry in between scenes, you could just gnaw on his face.
He could whip out that big pink tongue.
Ew. Let's not go there, please.
As far as Freddy's iconic weapon, Craven stated that he wanted, quote, something somebody 1,000 years ago could have related to, end quote. And back then, it was mainly knives. But all the other slashers use knives, so he didn't want to go that route. He initially wanted to use a sickle, but obviously that wasn't a good fit. So he noticed a cat's paw with the claws extended, which gave him the idea for knives on gloves, and that's where the basis for the iconic knife finger glove came from.
Okay, so I'm going to confess something here. That is one of my biggest fears, is being hurt or killed by a knife. Yes, I know I think about these things, but I mean, realistically, what are we doing here?
And apparently you think about these things more now.
I do. Apparently in the shower when the dogs are barking.
Dog barks, I'm going to get stabbed. As far as Freddy's iconic sweater, it was initially going to be yellow and red stripes. But then Craven learned that the human eye has difficulty seeing the colors green and red side by side. And on a subliminal level, it looks very disturbing and unsettling to those who observe it. So naturally, this was the perfect combination for the sweater. So do we have to change Christmas colors now?
I like Christmas colors, but I honestly think this was the first Where's Waldo? Where's Freddy in his striped shirt?
And you have to look for him too, but you don't want to find Freddy.
You don't want to find him. No, you do not.
Here's a fun fact. The slasher character was inspired by Craven's childhood bully, who was named Fred Kreuger. Craven also used the same name for the villain in his other cult classic movie, The Last House on the Left. Now that movie was creepy. So don't be a bully, kids, because you might be the next Freddy Kreuger if you pick on the wrong person. And you know that bully had to go through his whole life with people saying, oh my God, did you know you have the same name as...
I think the same can apply to anyone who's dated Taylor Swift.
Right. Don't mess with them.
You break up, you get a song about you.
That's right. Throughout the franchise, it's not part of the first movie, but it is eventually revealed, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the other movies, that Freddy Kreuger became a serial killer of children because he was born to a nun. Why a nun? Just makes it creepier. Who had been raped by 100 criminally insane men at an asylum after she was mistakenly locked in with them over a weekend. Then 9 months later, a bouncing baby Freddy was born. He was then adopted by an abusive alcoholic father and had a troubled childhood, where he was also teased by other children and called the bastard son of 100 maniacs. Kids are the worst. He eventually grew up, became violent, and turned on his father by stabbing him right in the eye.
Yeesh.
Who comes up with this stuff? They definitely need a hug. Because he had been bullied by his classmates, when Freddy grew up, he decided to get revenge by killing their children and became the Springwood Slasher. He was eventually caught, but following his arrest and quick release by a drunken judge.
Does everybody seem to drink in this movie? Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. But
no worries. I know. What does that say about this town?
You got the drunken mother, you got the drunken father, you got the drunken judge.
Everybody, or you're a killer. Everybody got to be drunk or a killer. So he was released by a drunken judge. An angry mob of those children's parents hunted him down and burned him alive. And then there's the burners.
Can't forget those.
Right? But during the burning, Freddy was approached by sleep demons, and they offered to allow his spirit to live on and continue killing teenagers, but only through their dreams. So, Freddy, my boy, you're going to have to work a little harder now. I knew they had to build a dark story for his background, but dang, that's pretty intense.
So, was Wes Craven stung as a child? Sheesh.
And what was he stung by?
Apparently a sleep demon.
Right. So here are some interesting facts about dreams.
I'm a little nervous about this part. I just know the interpretations of my dreams are going to be a whole lot of, I don't want to hear it.
Well, you're going to hear it because that's the one I'm going to start with.
The torture.
Number 1, dream interpretation. Deciphering dreams is harder than initial studies have shown. Dream research has proven that dreams can be completely random, which makes them impossible to interpret.
Whew. Got out of that one, didn't I?
Not really.
Come on. Give me a break.
Number 2, dreaming is most common in the morning. It is fairly common for people to remember their dreams more clearly right after awakening in the morning. This is because you spend more time in the REM stage of sleep right before waking, leading to longer and more vivid dreams. Dreams during the deep sleep stage are more common but will be more difficult to remember once you wake up.
I always do seem to dream right before I wake up.
That's what it feels like.
It does feel that way, yeah.
Number 3, less stress leads to better dreams. Stress, along with other negative emotions, can lead to nightmares. If you find yourself having negative dreams, you might want to seek mental health assistance to see if there might be an underlying issue that needs to be resolved. Inner tranquility will lead to more positive dreaming.
Namaste.
There you go. Number 4, memories inform your dreams. Real life experiences seep into your subconscious, creating a foundation for your dreams. Neuroscience professionals believe short-term to long-term memory consolidation happens during the dreaming process.
So did I actually have a tryst with a celebrity I don't remember? Damn wine.
Darn that you don't remember that. So close. Number 5, men and women dream differently. We all have different types of dreams for different reasons, but there are some core differences in common dream themes between men and women. For instance, men dream more about behaving aggressively, while women often have dreams about difficult conversations or experiencing rejection. I experience that rejection every time I can't get the second half of my party dream. Boom, chicka, bow, wow.
So annoying.
Number 6, negative dreams are more common. For most people, negative dreams are more common than positive dreams. This is possibly due to the amount of stress many people experience in their daily lives. I tell people all the time at my job, stress is the enemy.
Stress is not good for anyone.
Nope. Number 7. Part of your brain shuts down while you dream. The prefrontal cortex, or the part of the brain that makes sense of the wide array of stimuli you encounter while awake, shuts down while you dream. This leads to dreams taking on their bizarre and sometimes nonsensical dream logic because you lose the ability to sift through your brain activity rationally.
I'm pretty sure I dream while I'm awake. There's times I just know I'm not using my brain.
I've witnessed that.
Daily.
Number 8. While dreaming, you're motionless. In order to protect you, your brain makes it impossible for you to move while you're dreaming, at least in most cases. This prevents you from being able to physically act out on your dreams, which could lead to injury. Still, sleep disorders can develop. For example, sleepwalking can occur when your brain fails to prevent you from acting out your dreams. Have you ever sleepwalked?
I have.
Really? I'm pretty sure I never have.
I did when I was younger. I had gotten up in the middle of the night. My mom had heard me, so she came down the hall, and I was standing in front of the bathroom door. I hadn't gone in. I was just standing there staring into the bathroom. My mom asked me what I was doing, and I said, well, I got to go to the bathroom. And she turned around to go to bed, and something stopped her. She came back to check on me, and I was crawling back into bed. And she goes, did you go to the bathroom? And I said, no. And she asked me about it the next morning. I went, no, I did not get up. What are you talking about? I had no idea I did any of that.
And why is there pee in my bed?
That part I control.
Number 9, you can take control of your dreams. Some dreamers have the ability to remain semi-conscious during visual dreams. This process, known as lucid dreaming, allows you to take an active role in the storyline of your subconscious thoughts. Through learning how to lucid dream, you can utilize your problem-solving and imaginative abilities, even as you sleep. I believe this is what I do during my recurring nightmare when I'm hovering above and being supportive to my kid self.
Look at you, superhero of your dream.
I should lucid dream a cape next time. I just want to look cooler.
Super slipper.
Number 10, you are likely to forget most of your dreams. Your brain remains at a lower level of cognition throughout the entirety of the dreaming process, and this makes it hard for most people to remember what they've dreamed about. Dream recall is best right after you wake up and gradually fades throughout the day, but recurring dreams are slightly easier to remember since they happen repetitively. I thought those facts were pretty interesting.
They actually were. I mean, some of the things that they said, I had no idea.
And it explains a lot when, you try to think about why this and why that. So
Right. And I guess I'm kind of glad that you can't interpret your dreams.
We may not want to. You're right. Especially if it's like real memories that plays a part into it.
No, I agree.
Okay, so let's get back to the movie and some clever, scary highlights that are downright strange in this movie. Like when Nancy is in class following Tina's death and her classmate, John, is asked to read about Julius Caesar. And by the way, that classmate is Don Hanna, Daryl Hannah's brother.
Look at that.
And when you realize that, they look exactly alike. And John speaks about the fall of Julius Caesar and the sheeted dead who squeak and gibber lying in the streets. I'm guessing this refers to Tina's dead body being sheeted in a body bag on the ground. It's a stretch, but I think it's there. Because right after this, Nancy dozes off in class and hears her name being called. So she looks in the hallway and sees Tina standing up in the clear plastic bloody body bag. But when Nancy looks away for a moment, then looks back, Tina is gone. She looks down and sees a pool of blood where Tina had been standing. So Nancy leaves class to investigate, looks down the hall and sees Tina in the bloody body bag on the ground. Then suddenly, something invisible lifts Tina's feet up and starts to drag her living dead body down the hall. It's a very creatively creepy moment, and Tina keeps popping up throughout the movie in her bloody body bag. And nobody ever bothered to zip that thing up. At one point, she's seen in the body bag standing outside, staring at Nancy, and a centipede comes straight out of her mouth. Then way too many snakes come out the bottom of the bag. I don't know what this represents. It's just weird.
I thought that was a little random too. And plus then there's the part where Freddy slashes his own chest and this green ooze with worms starts coming out. Is that just gore for the sake of gore?
To me, that wasn't even gory. It looked like antifreeze with maggots in it. It was very bizarre.
And that's exactly, maybe that's what he used.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it looked like.
That green slime from Nickelodeon.
Maybe Wes Craven is getting greedy and trying to tap into all the fears, including snakes and bugs. It's all dream logic, so I guess it doesn't have to make sense.
No, it does not. But also in that scene, do you remember that girl that was like the hall monitor? She had on the Freddy shirt, it was like blood was coming from her mouth.
Yeah.
What was that?
More dream logic. That didn't even amount to anything. She was just like a mean girl in a Freddy sweater.
Yeah, telling her that something about not being out of class, or she needing a pass, or something stupid. It was like, where did she come from, and why is she just there?
And why is she wearing the sweater?
She was. I thought, okay, weird.
But my favorite and most memorable moment in the movie is when Nancy is trying to call her boyfriend Glenn, but she can't get through, so she hangs up. Then her phone suddenly rings. She picks it up and hears Freddy-ish screeching noises. So she gets scared and rips her phone out of the wall. But though disconnected, it mysteriously rings again. So like a true teen horror star, she answers. Freddy is on the phone and says, "I'm your boyfriend now." And suddenly the lower part of the handset becomes Freddy's mouth, with a really long, pink, glistening tongue, and he licks her right on the mouth. This tongue phone is awesome, and I can't help but wonder if Freddy was a good kisser. And why is his tongue so pristine when the rest of his body was all melty?
You are just demented. That is gross.
My favorite part. The end of the movie was very controversial, as Craven wanted it to be a final ending, and he actually wanted it to be a happy ending. But the studio wanted it to be open-ended for potential sequels. So when you see the 4 teens happily drive off in the car, you see that they quickly begin to scream because they don't have control of the car. Then the convertible top comes down with the signature red and green stripes, implying that Freddy has taken on the shape of the car and driven off with the kids in the now Freddy-mobile. Of course, fans wanted to know, was this supposed to be the real world or the dream world?
I actually thought it was a dream world. That was my interpretation. I thought it was a dream.
And that's funny because I thought they went back to the real world and like this came out in real life, in the movie, of course. So different interpretations.
Exactly.
Right?
Uh-huh.
This sleep-changing horror film, A Nightmare on Elm Street, was released in 1984. But Craven had a very difficult time selling his script to any of the big movie studios. He was turned down again and again. But then he had an offer from Disney.
Of all,
right?
Of all studios.
But they would only take it on if all the scary stuff was removed so that they could market it to children. Obviously, Craven decided to stay true to himself and turn them down. I'm not sure there would have been anything left without the scary stuff. I wonder where they were going with that.
That is just mind-boggling. Because you're right. That would have pretty much gotten rid of at least 3/4 of the movie.
Right? We would have seen 4 teens at the beginning, some slightly scary nightmares, and then they drive off in a convertible. That'd be it.
And they probably would have been playing some happy music as the convertible drives off.
And they would have even had to take out the love scene between Rod and Tina, which is obnoxious at best. Finally, New Line Cinema decided to take a risk on the script as they were not doing too well financially at the time. They had a budget of $700,000, but they ran into trouble and were not able to pay the cast for over 2 weeks. So they recruited investors from the UK to raise the budget to $1.1 million, and they were able to pay the cast. A Nightmare on Elm Street ended up receiving critical acclaim and grossed $57 million worldwide. And with the huge success of the movie and the entire franchise of movies to follow, New Line Cinema was brought back to life financially and became known as the house that Freddy built.
That is definitely a nice return on your investment.
And imagine what $57 million is worth now. It's a lot of money.
Yes.
Until next time, try to stay awaker or you might meet your maker. Nighty-night.
Thank you all for listening, and remember, take care and let your imaginations run wild.
We just want to thank you all for sharing your time with us. And if you'd like to send in your creepy little grim bits, we would love to hear your personal stories, interests, and suggestions. Please email them to grimwitwithdimwits@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at grimwitwithdimwits, Twitter at grimwitwithdimwits, and Facebook, Grimwit with Dimwits. Join us every Monday for new episodes, and feel free to share us with your grim-loving friends.
We would really appreciate if you would take a minute to rate and review. 5-star ratings go a long way and would really help us out. Until then, we would love it if you'd come back next week to delve with us into the strange and unusual things we just can't wrap our skulls around.